Houston Texans hit a home run in the 2023 NFL Draft, finding their franchise quarterback C.J. Stroud, their defensive phenom Will Anderson Jr., and a stud playmaker in Tank Dell. How are they going to approach this year's class? Because the Houston Texans, they have the 23rd overall pick this year, and that's it. It's not like the previous 2 years where you had back-to-back top 3 selections that became Derek Stingley and C.J. Stroud, and you don't have another first-round pick like you did in the 2 back-to-back seasons where you got Kenyon Green and Will Anderson Jr. A lot of people are wondering what the Houston Texans are going to do. And guys, drop me down below your favorite draft prospect. I could see this team going cornerback, defensive lineman, wide receiver. I can also see them trading out of the first round, getting more day 2, day 3 picks and building up the roster like that. But what we do know is that Nick Caserio has a plan. With that being said, we have a 3-round mock draft for you guys today. Welcome everyone to the 713 Houston Sportcast. I am your host, Ruben Calvillo. This episode was brought to you by my friends at Underdog Fantasy. Download the app and use my promo code 713HOU for a first-time bonus deposit up to $100. And guys, thank you all so much for watching today's episode. I use PFF's mock draft simulator, and here's who were the 2 players available to me at 23. Jer'Zhan Newton, defensive tackle from Illinois, and wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU. I mean, I could go either way if I was the Houston Texans. However, I went with the bigger need, and I went with Jer'Zhan Johnny Newton, 6'2", 295 pounds, a day 1 starter who was going to help make this Houston Texans defense elite. He plays with a high motor, swarm mentality, exactly what head coach DeMeco Ryans preaches, and he might be the best pass rushing defensive tackle in this year's draft class. His pass rush win rate was just insane. His stats this year: 43 pressures, 32 defensive stops. If you don't know what a defensive stop is, it means the play resulted in 0 to negative yards, and he also added 8 sacks on the season. I think Jer'Zhan Newton would be a dynamic player here. He's a guy that does not come off the field. All 3 of his seasons at Illinois, 600 plus snaps. This dude is a game changer, and if the Houston Texans get their hands on him, I am going to call this a win on day 1 of the draft. I would be super excited if the Houston Texans were Jer'Zhan Newton at 23. Pick 59 for the Houston Texans. I don't know how this guy fell to me, but if DeMeco Ryans gets his hands on Edgerrin Cooper, linebacker from A&M, I think this will be a home run move for the Houston Texans. You're going to have a lot of people say, why wasn't Cooper a first-round draft pick? The 6'3", 230-pound linebacker's season was insane. 75 tackles, 56 defensive stops, 27 pressures, 10 sacks, 2 pass breakups, and 2 forced fumbles. This is the best linebacker in this class. And if the Houston Texans want to trade up for him, I think this is the guy that you do it for. A day 1 starter next to Christian Harris. And dare I say, this might be your captain in the future. And I think it's time for DeMeco Ryans to get his project linebacker that he molds and turns into one of the best linebackers in the NFL, like what he did with Fred Warner. Remember Warner's comments at the Super Bowl Media Day? There is no Fred Warner without DeMeco Ryans. And what we've seen in year 1 with DeMeco, that he can actually develop talent. That's why we saw an amazing season from Christian Harris towards the end as he was getting more familiar and more comfortable with DeMeco Ryans' system. Man, I would be screaming and I'll be jumping off the walls if Edgerrin Cooper was there at 59 for the Houston Texans. In the 3rd round with the 89th selection, I went Malachi Corley, wide receiver from Western Kentucky, 5'11", 210 pounds. His stats this year: 79 receptions, 985 yards, 11 touchdowns. What's going to immediately stand out is his toughness. 55 missed tackles over the previous 2 years. And this is a guy who will run over a cornerback. Arm tackling is not going to work. He plays like he's a 6'4" wide receiver. His stats last year, 1,282 yards, 11 touchdowns, back-to-back seasons with double-digit scores. In 2021, when he was just getting started, 684 yards, 7 touchdowns. You want the ball in Corley's hands, and he is going to come in here and be your number 3 wide receiver, but I think someone who could come in and have an immediate impact. Whenever your quarterback is C.J. Stroud, he is going to make you look good. And I think Corley could be underrated, ladies and gentlemen. What's going to scare people is the size, right? 5'11". We just drafted a short wide receiver last year in Tank Dell. That's why you have a lot of fans saying Xavier Leggett from South Carolina, the 6'3", 6'4" dude who looks like just a carbon copy of DK Metcalf. But I would not mind Corley at all. And I think the Houston Texans just continue to add weapons to this roster, and there will be a lot of pressure on this draft class, right? I went Jer'Zhan Newton, I went Edgerrin Cooper, and then I went Malachi Corley to give you a 3-round Houston Texans mock draft. For more Houston Texans content, guys, y'all follow me for more. Go Houston. You guys have a very blessed day.